Hey everybody, Robert with RC Archery, and you are watching Tuesday's Tip of the Week number 81. In this week's video, I'm going to give you 3 adjustments that I've made to my bow and learned over time that has helped me hold steadier and has helped me be more accurate on target. All right, tip number 1, our D-loop. A lot of people have overlooked this, myself included early on, and it really complements what we're doing on the front half by setting our draw length on our bow. But the second part of this draw length equation is the length of this loop. And this loop actually helps create what we need for our hold on target, our leverage over the bow, and it helps us get our rear shoulder in a relaxed and set position to help us be steadier. And as we are pulling through your shot, or as you're working through your shot, it's setting up what you need on target. Now, if you have this loop too short, you'll notice that you have a lot of leverage over the bow. You can over control it, and you can create some jerky and sharp movements. You also may notice that if you start to pull, in some cases you may want to pull the bow straight up off the target, or in an extreme case of this being too short, your elbow will be too high, and as you pull, you're actually pulling upwards on the D loop and it's forcing the bow to go down. So that is one thing to look at. If this is too long, then what we need to look for is it feels like we're floating away from our face with our hand. It feels like we don't have enough leverage to hold the bow up on target. We may not be able to continue expanding or pulling into our shot to where we see our steadiest sight picture on target. Even if you're a stagnant shooter and you like to just stack and build pressure at full draw, you may notice that the harder you are pulling on there, the loopier everything gets and the more out of whack everything goes. So make sure that you are adjusting this loop and trying different lengths and experimenting with what you need to do in order to get your best hold on target with this. All right, tip number 2 is our draw weight and also our holding weight, or let off percentage, with a lot of people that what they look at. Number 1, with draw weight in itself, we don't want to be overbowed. You don't want to look like you're having to cram or do anything weird or really muscle up or really strain to draw a bow back. When you do that, you start using the wrong muscles, you start getting out of the correct shape and seating of the joints that you're going to need. And overall, that's going to make you way less accurate on target, and it's going to make you way sloppier in your aim. You're not going to have that steadiness that you're looking for. Now, an area that a ton of people overlook is your let off. And this holding weight that we have at full draw creates a couple scenarios in what we're looking for. Number 1 is it has a huge dependent factor on our overall total mass of the bow. If you have a high let off, so an 80-85% let off on a bow, think a hunting setup. Those hunting bows are supposed to not be too heavy. That's why those high let off systems work really well as that being forgiving and easier to hold back at full draw. If you were to take a ton of bar weight and put on a bow that's got 80-85% or whatever let off like that, that bow is going to feel really, really heavy, and it's going to be very hard to manage. Now, on the opposite side with the target bow, especially if you have a lower let off where you're running 65% or 70 or maybe even 75, if you don't run enough weight on those bows, they are going to feel light, and it will almost feel like it's a kite. And anytime, like if wind hits you especially, or when you're nervous on a shooting line, you'll notice that the bow gets very twitchy and very flighty. So you want more weight on that setup, overall mass weight. You'll also be determined on how much front weight you need. When you have lower let off percentage and you're holding more weight at full draw, you're going to need more front weight on your stabilizer than if you have a high let off system as well. So that is something to be keeping in mind while we're setting our bow up and while we're looking at total accuracy. All right, the next thing we're looking at is our peep height. Peep height is, especially early on, incredibly overlooked. I see a ton of people leave their pro shop, their peep was set up for them, maybe they weren't shown or getting into the correct anchor point, so you're not comfortable. You start having to duck your head, or you're leaning it back, or your hand is way up or down, you're floating around in your anchor points. We don't want to have that happen. The other thing is if you switch from one release to another, especially if you're switching from a caliper index release to a handheld release, this peep sight height will totally change. So as you're moving around, what we want to do is find our most comfortable anchor position to where we can draw this bow back and have our eyes closed, get into what feels comfortable and natural, and then see where that lines us up for our peep, and then adjust that peep accordingly. Taking that one step further, I would say go and shoot on a target and see what your hold and how your sight picture looks. I can have my peep height adjusted higher or lower, and my anchor point is in turn adjusting higher or lower, and I can hold completely differently. So when we're talking about outright accuracy and what we're looking at with this, we want to make sure that we don't overlook the peep height so that we have a comfortable, repeatable head position and a good anchor point to where we are steadiest on target, and also so you can execute your shot as easiest as possible. All right, if you haven't already done so, make sure you're subscribed to the channel with the bell notifications on. Our YouTube Shorts videos that are coming out on Wednesday and Thursday this week will be over shooting with one eye or two eyes open, pluses and minuses to that, and kind of how we're setting that up and what we're looking for. And then it's also going to be going over our center serving diameter, how you want the nock fit to be, and what we're looking for on that as well. Our members video this week, I'm going to be going over drop away rests, how to set them up, and the overlooked tension of what our cord has and how that can affect our accuracy and give us some false hits and readings on target. Again, guys, thank you for watching these videos. I appreciate the thumbs up and the likes on here. That helps out a lot, and hope to see you soon.